my channel, I'm doing something today that I haven't done in a while, but I'm very excited about, which is a Dollar Tree Christmas decorations DIY video. Dollar Tree is popping off this year, and I feel like we can take a lot of the items that they had on the shelves and make them cuter and make them more. So let's have a cozy little time, sip some hot cocoa, and make some cute Christmas decorations together. Okay, so our first DIY I think is the one I'm the most excited about, so we're just gonna get into it. I got 4 of these placemats, and these are like a nice fabric. It's like kind of an upholstery fabric, and they had a few different patterns. I went with this pretty poinsettia print, and we are gonna turn these into some gorgeous high-end looking throw pillows for less than $5 each. This is such a simple DIY. You could absolutely do this with a needle and thread too if you don't have a sewing machine. It's just straight lines, so any kind of basic stitch would really do it. And if you wanted to do it like a no-sew way, you could absolutely use like hem tape and just iron it. But basically, I'm just removing all the tags here, including these little guys that you can just tear off. And we're gonna take a seam ripper or just a sharp pair of scissors, and we're gonna get in between right here where this is kind of folded over, find that thread, and just open this up little by little until we have just a flat piece of fabric. When you get to the corner, you want to make sure that you get in here as well so that it unfolds, and then you can continue going the opposite direction that you were going. And we're just going to do that basically all the way around both placemats. And then I'm just going to press these edges open. We want to get rid of that crease, and it's really nice because this actually serves as a great little seam allowance line for us to follow. So it's a very easy sewing project. And then we're just gonna pin our right sides together here. So the pattern should be facing on the inside, line up all those corners. And we're gonna put some pins in here. Make sure your pins are all going the correct way so that you can pull them out as you're sewing. And then we are just gonna sew all the way down that line. I'm gonna leave a little hole here. Just backstitch this. Make sure all your pins are out, and then that little hole that we kept is what we're gonna use to turn this whole thing inside out. But first, little trick, use some fabric scissors to cut the corners just at an angle like this, so you can get nice sharp corners on your pillow. Obviously, don't cut into the line where you sewed. And yep, we just work on turning this around. The smaller hole you leave, the harder time you're gonna have getting it turned inside out, but it will look cleaner because we won't have to go and top stitch as large a portion. And just push out those corners with your finger or a chopstick or the end of your scissors. Just try to get them as nice and pointy as you can. There we go, and now it's starting to look like a pillowcase, and we're just gonna stuff it with some polyfill. I really like that you can super customize these as far as like how filled you want it to be. Do you like a softer pillow? Do you like that like overstuffed look? I like to separate this into smaller bunches because I feel like it just looks less lumpy the more bunches you put in instead of just like putting it all in one big glob. So I'm just gonna do this until it's filled. And then we're just gonna pin this seam together here so you can't see any of that dark part, and we will just top stitch this seam to complete it. And I really like how this turned out for, I think, like less than $4, all things considered. So for our next DIY, we're gonna be making this really pretty Christmas wreath with a bell. You're gonna need 3 items from the dollar store. The first one is this kind of circular wire bead ring. This is gonna be the base of our wreath. You're gonna need 1 of these little bells and 2 sprigs of faux Christmas florals of your choice. And then from home, you're gonna need a glue gun and optional, but I'm gonna be using some ribbon. So we're gonna start by taking this faux floral thing off the top of the bell. It's just not very well made, and I feel like it cheapens the look. And instead, we're just gonna use some pretty ribbon to tie this to the top of the wreath. I think probably right about there. I want it to hang down a little bit, but not too much because we wanna have room for the greenery down here. I'm just twisting the ribbon as I'm tying it to make sure that the pretty velvet part is what is facing out. I always like to cut at an angle. I think it just gives you a nicer finished look. And we're actually gonna cut these floral stems right here with some strong scissors or a wire cutter. And we're just gonna hot glue them right here. And then I'm using these pine cones in the middle here to cover all of these stems, like that. And I'll just cut off any excess down here. And now we have this really lovely little bell wreath. This next one is probably the easiest DIY of the bunch, and it is so stinking cute. So you need a bunch of these big plastic ornaments that look like vintage Christmas lights. You're just gonna unscrew the top of it and pour in a lot of acrylic paint. And then you're just gonna roll this around, or if you're like me and you're impatient, you can kind of smack it until the paint gets on all of the sides. This is also something you could absolutely do with toddlers. It'd be a great toddler craft if you just pour the paint in and put the lid on and then let them go nuts shaking it. And it's customizable to any color scheme that you wanna do for Christmas. So I'm doing kind of a classic Christmas light vibe. I'm tying them about 9 inches apart on some twine, and then you can hang them up and it looks like a little section of Christmas lights that's just always colorful. So for this next project, we're gonna be taking this little tinsel tree and we're actually just gonna be using the frame of it. So the first thing I'm doing is finding the end of the tinsel and just unwinding it so we have the kind of plastic cage. And you're just gonna take some chunky yarn. Starting right here, you're gonna hot glue it. And we're just gonna do that all the way around that bottom lip. And once you've got that kind of base layer in there, you're gonna let it dry. And then you're gonna use these little hooks here to just wind it around. And if you've got places where it's not wanting to stick, you can always use a little dot of hot glue. I'm just gonna kind of twist this around. I went all the way up and all the way down. And then when that's all covered, I'll do the same thing for this tier. I just cut it off, glued it. And do the same for the next one. Then I'm gonna do the exact same thing to the bottom, but with twine to give us a little bit of variety and give us kind of like a trunk. So I'm gonna start by gluing it. Oh, how I wish my hot glue gun reached over here. And it's a little bit thicker on the top, so I'm just gonna build it up on the bottom so it looks a little bit more even. And then I have this piece of scrap ribbon from a different project. It's not really big enough to do much else with, so I'm gonna wrap this around the bottom as kind of like a tree skirt. And to get this to lay nicely, I'm just gluing it kind of towards the bottom and then folding it. And then I glue it, and then I fold it, and we'll end up with this kind of like chevron thing. And I'm just kind of tucking the leftover edges down like that. We've got our little tree skirt. And then I kept all of these original elements from the tinsel tree, so I'm just gonna rub and buff this gold and glue them back on. And then our fifth and final one is perfect for kids, especially if you're having a Christmas party and you wanna make a do you wanna build a snowman station to keep the kids busy while the adults are socializing? And the medium we're using is a little bit weird. You're gonna wanna grab 2 pairs of socks, like fuzzy socks. One of them you want the base to be white and the other one you want to be holiday. We need some kids' hair ties, like a little elastics, and more of that polyfill, or you could just stuff them with the socks that we're not using. And then whatever you want to use to make faces. You could do paint, you could do scrap fabric, really up to you. You're gonna separate your polyfill into 3 size balls. And you're gonna stuff the biggest one in first. You're gonna stuff it all the way down to the bottom, shape it until it's nice and round. You're gonna take one of those kiddos hair ties and you're just gonna put it around kind of the top of where that ball of polyfill is. You're gonna take your medium ball, repeat the process, just like that. And then the smallest ball will be the head at the top. Now, if your sock is long enough, you can actually just fold that over to make a little beanie, and it is completely fine like that. But I wanna get even more Christmas themed, so we're going to cut a beanie out of one of these Christmas pattern socks. So I'm just gonna cut like here, I'm gonna cut it kind of long, like that. I'm just gonna fold this little beanie right over this guy, and you can give it like a little brim or like fold it up, tuck the bottom in here. How stinking cute is this little snowman? And then you can do whatever you want to get his face on. I'm personally gonna add on a few little buttons. Just glue those on there. I'm gonna cut out a circle of construction paper in an orange color. Cut out a decent portion of that. I'm just kind of rolling this around a knitting needle to make his nose. And I'm just gonna take a scrap piece of yarn from earlier, kind of tie it on itself a few times, and glue a little pom-pom onto his hat. So that is gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed all of these Christmas DIYs. Make sure to tag me on Instagram if you make any of them. If you wanna see more DIY content, seasonal content, and just general like saving some money while making things cute, I would love if you subscribe. The button is right down there and we can be friends. As always, I love you guys a lot and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!
Are my fabric scissors? Who knows?
I went with the, what did I want to call them, hydrangeas? Poinsettia. Ow. Jeez Louise. Ouch. Ow, holy cow, that hurt. Oh, man. Holy cow, I gotta stop burning myself. Oh, come on. Something went wrong. Where are you, problem child? There we go. Wow, it was at the very beginning. That's inconvenient. Okay.